So we're going to talk about love. And I'm laughing because it's it's everything. It's not just the broad umbrella topic. It's truly everything. We use the word love because as humans, we like to put labels on things. We like to name things. We like it that it's a short word. It's we've really packaged it nicely. Love, and even the sound of it. It's like it starts with a soft L, la 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 la, and it ends with a V, which is so just love. And in the middle, the ah, it's a very open vowel. And so just as we say the word love, it just feels so comforting and comfortable. But that also is part of our human labeling and our seeking to define and our seeking in a funny way to manage or control. Because if we manage or control or define something, um, it feels comfortable to us, it feels safe. And even things that are wondrous, but bigger than we can hold, don't always feel safe. Um, and so love is the word that we use because it's short and it's comforting and comfortable, and it's also broad. It's like the word snow. You know how the word snow in the English language, we have one word, and in the native cultures up, in snowy regions like Alaska and northern Canada, those all indigenous peoples have so many different words for snow. We have one. I think they have like a couple of hundred or something. Anyway, um, and love is the same way. We have one word for it, but it encompasses countless things, experiences, states of being, actions, thoughts. What they're trying to say is that another word for love, once again, we're stuck with words because we're human and we're operating within the confines of language. Another word for love is energy, because love is very much in motion. It's very much active rather than passive. It's very dynamic. It's very vibrant. It is like energy. It is constantly changing. And so love is that. And the funny thing is that as humans, just like we've limited love to this single small four-letter word that feels comfortable and manageable, so we limit our experience of love. And we try to compartmentalize it and label it. So, for instance, certain belief systems limit love to like love between a man and a woman, or love for a mother and child, or love that a friend might have for a friend. And we place, in certain belief systems, we place limitations on love. And we're beginning to experience that love is limitless. And so, of course, we get to experience that in ways that fit in our human understanding and are also challenging for our human understanding. So, as an example, the LGBTQ community, and I want to be clear, I'm saying LGBTQ, and I feel like there's more, so it might be LGBTQ plus, or I just want to say that by stopping at LGBTQ, it's only because that's as far as my knowledge goes, and there are probably more letters. And the funny thing is they're showing the letters like limitless. Like there's so many letters that go beyond that. And I think people in that community actually know that, and they understand that. And it's funny because I even say that community, and I instantly feel the wrongness of identifying that community, quote unquote, that community, as in any way, shape, or form separate from myself. I don't know what the right term is, I am a heterosexual, binary, gender, woman identifying, whatever. And I am in no way, shape, or form separate from anyone else in any form of their expression and of their expression of their own being or their expression of love. There is no limitation, and there should be no limitation. And that's challenging for some of us because some of us have a pretty clearly defined understanding. And that clearly defined understanding helps us feel safe and helps us feel comfortable and like we know and we understand. And we like to know and understand because as humans, we are finite and we are very comfortable being finite. And so we want everything and everyone around us to be finite because then we're all comfortable, we're all equal, we're all finite. And the reality is we're all just pretending. We're pretending for our own sense of safety or comfort or whatever, because it is all infinite and we are all infinite, and love, of course, is infinite. And one expression of love does not negate another expression of love. It does not belittle another expression of love. It does not threaten another expression of love. It is all love. It is all like snow. It's all the limitless different indigenous terms for the one thing under the one umbrella. It is all love. And if we are seeking to limit it, generally that comes from a place of fear, a place of we can't quite hold or step into the infinite. Now, there's a flip side of limiting, and that's when some of us have stepped into acceptance that there's more than one name for snow, there's more than one word for snow. We have to be careful that we don't look unkindly or judgmentally at the people who still only know one word for snow. And we have to be really careful not to be haughty and think, oh, I have expanded understanding and you are there in your limited understanding. Because if we have expanded understanding, if we have more knowledge, it is a gift. It's amazing. And we are to use our gifts with kindness and compassion and also fullness of expansion. So, and that's a kind of a challenging place to be because we're experiencing the fullness of expansion. We're stepping into that which is infinite. And at the same time, we are called to have compassion and understanding and openness toward the people who maybe are behind us on the path. So when we're forging a new path, it's kind of challenging because the people who are behind us on the path sometimes are standing in the back going, oh, no, you're wrong. The path doesn't go there. The path doesn't go there. You're wrong. The path is over here. Come back. You are misguided. The path is over here. And they're right, because the path, which has been trod by many before us, is back over here. And we're forging a new way. And to forge a new way isn't wrong. It's wonderful. And it's filled with courage and openness and strength. And it's just an excitement. And it's so wonderful. But it's so important to remember when we're forging a new path, not to condemn the people who are walking the old one. Because not all of us have the desire to forge a new path or the need. The people who are forging the new path couldn't do anything else. It's more than a calling. It's like in every fiber of their being. And so, of course, the people who are meant to forge a new path, they are doing what they're supposed to do. And the people who are still on the old path are equally doing what they're supposed to do. And this is where this big, broad concept of love comes in, where it's important that we each understand the word for snow that we're experiencing at the moment. You know, maybe we're experiencing slushy snow, or maybe we're experiencing icy snow, or maybe we're experiencing the snow that falls, the first snow that falls at the beginning of autumn. And so we're experiencing our own type of snow. We're experiencing our own experience of love. And we don't discount anyone else's experience. If we don't understand the people who are forging a new path, that's okay. We don't have to understand them. It's okay if we feel a little uncomfortable with them. It's also okay if we feel a little threatened by them. You know, the people who are forging a new path, man, that's a lot of raw energy. Like, rawr, they are out there, they're forging away. It's new. It requires a lot of energy, and it can feel overwhelming, you know, for people who are still on that path that's well trodden and very clearly defined and comfortable. Now, the well-trodden path is not the wimpy way out. The well-trodden path has a lot of purpose, and a lot of good comes from the well-trodden path. The well-trodden path doesn't need to be left or abandoned or discounted. The well-trodden path allows people, because they're not forging a new path, it's sometimes easier to be focused on other things. Now, there are plenty of people out there forging a new path who can multitask, and so they're forging a new path and they're focused on other things, you know, and it's fabulous. But it's important to recognize that the well-trodden path is not less than. Neither endeavor is less than. Neither endeavor is greater than. Both endeavors are love. All endeavors are love. And whether we're forging a completely new path, or maybe following the first few people down a new path, or walking down a really old and ancient path, all paths are love. All paths are to be honored and valued, and never, ever, ever to be belittled. The biggest principle of love is love doesn't judge. We don't judge. We don't judge another's path. We don't judge their experience. We don't judge their walk. We don't judge. We just accept and allow. And if we can't accept and allow because it's too scary to us, it's too frightening, then at the very least, we leave them in peace. We leave them in peace. So if we're forging a new path and other people are on the ancient path, we leave them in peace. And if we're on the ancient path and others are forging a new path and it feels uncomfortable to us, that's okay. We leave them in peace. And so this is the important first tenet, I guess, of love. No judgment. No judgment. We accept. We apply love to other people. We accept them. Now, we apply that to ourselves too. If we find another's path confusing or threatening or frightening, we take a step back into our own path. where we feel comfortable. And we say to ourselves, that's okay. I can see their path and I can, say to them, yeah, more power to you. And I don't have to walk down their path with them. Um, I hate to use this example because I'm trying so hard to avoid anything that defines anything. But I'm just going to throw out this example and hope that I am forgiven for it being less than perfect. So, for instance, the gay pride parades that happen. Some people will organize the parades. Some people will march in the parades. Some people will stand on the sidelines and cheer the parades. Some people will stay at home and watch the parade on the news, or maybe read about it a day or two later in the paper and say, oh yeah, there was the pride parade. Oh, huh. Oh, okay. And so all of these are falling within love, where there's no judgment and everybody is doing what they feel called to do and what feels safe to them and what feels comfortable. Some people feel really safe marching and experiencing this energy, and other people feel very safe being on the sidelines and saying, yes, wow, and experiencing that energy. And other people, I'm just going to jump to the opposite extreme. Other people feel very safe simply knowing, oh yeah, there was a pride parade. Okay, I don't need to participate. I don't need to be there, but that's okay with me. That's okay with me. And it's important that the people who maybe are staying at home and going, that's okay, and the people who are at the front of the parade equally accept each other's place, equally accept each other's place to be, and that it's okay. Where we step out of love, because love is something we choose. We can choose to be in love, or we can choose to step out of love. And where we choose to step out of love is if we are imposing our view on another, if we are imposing what is true for us on someone else, if we want our experience to be their experience, if we want our path to be their path, that's where we run afoul. That's where we have stepped out of love. And so the first thing we do is not go walk around with our finger pointed out. That person's out of love. That person's out of love. That person's out of love. The very first thing we want to do is put that finger right on our chest, right over our heart, and then maybe let it become our palm over our heart, and examine ourselves and say, where might I be stepping out of love? Where might I be exhibiting a little bit of judgment or feeling threatened or fearful? Where might I be stepping out? Where might I be in judgment of someone else? Now, as I say this, I can hear in my mind, because somebody back there in the peanut gallery is, what about righteous judgment? For whoever that is in the peanut gallery, we'll get there. That is a different topic for a different day and absolutely has a place. So anybody who's listening to this and freaking out, don't worry, there's a place, because there are areas, there are things where judgment in its human form is necessary. But this is not one of them, and that's not a part of today's conversation. Today we're all about love. And so the thing about love is love doesn't point the finger outward. It turns it around. It places it above its own heart and then relaxes it into a gentle hand over the heart. And love explores its own heart to see, where am I in judgment? Where am I in fear? Because sometimes we're not in judgment. Oh, now we're getting another tenet. So just like judgment isn't a part of love, fear isn't a part of love. Am I afraid of other people? So if we're at the front of the parade, we should feel, and we do feel, obviously, because we're at the front of the parade, fully empowered. And we want to feel love for the people who are sitting at home and don't even know the parade is going on. That's okay. And we want to feel so much love in our hearts. We don't want to be afraid of, oh, if those people haven't seen the parade, if they're not marching with me, or they're not on the sidelines of the parade, then I've got to be, there's something wrong. And no, there's no fear, there's nothing wrong. And the same way, if we are sitting at home, we don't need to be afraid of the people marching at the front of the parade. They are walking their path. They are living their experience. And we are free to live our experience, whatever that is, not at the front of the parade. And so the whole point of love is that it encompasses everyone. And so until we can place our hand over our heart and look at everyone, whether they organize the parade or at the front of the parade, or, kind of decided at the last minute to jump from the sidelines into the parade, or are on the sidelines but happily cheering, or sitting at home utterly unaware, until we can put our hand over our heart and feel love for everyone on their path, then we ourselves are not fully in love. And I think the reason that we're choosing this particular example is because it can be so divisive, and because it's also so foundational. I mean, we are who we are, and we love who we love. And it doesn't get much more foundational than that. And so within that, can we be who we are and love who we love, and find it within ourselves, within our hearts, to love everyone else on their path. And within love, that maybe we even can hold a little respect, and I tiptoe into that word. Can we be at home and not even know all the letters LGBTQ? Can we not know the letters but still respect the path? And can we be at the forefront of that parade, forging a new path? Man, we are cutting down, whatever's in the way of the path, because that's what forging a new path takes. Is sometimes we got our machete out and we're hacking through the underbrush to clear the path. Sometimes forging a new path, it's not gentle always. It takes a lot of energy. It can sometimes look a little fierce even to the people who are not called to be forging a new path, the people who are quite comfortable on the path of antiquity. But so can we, with that degree of energy at the forefront of the path, look with equal love and respect for the people who are on the path of antiquity, the path that is well trod, the path that is so comfortable for them, just as we feel great energy and, in a sense, very comfortable, slashing through the underbrush of our path. And can we at home on the, old path feel so much respect for the people out there forging a new path? Like, woohoo, you go out there, tearing through the underbrush. I'm here in my lazy boy saying, woohoo, you go. And then I'm going to be back to People magazine or whatever. And it's so okay. Everybody is exactly who they are meant to be, being who they are. But we become, here's the point. We become more of who we are when we have that hand over our heart and are respecting everyone on every path. So we have our machete in one hand and the other hand is over our heart as we are forging that new path through the underbrush. We are creating a new path, and yet we have one hand on our heart because we respect all of the other paths and we love all of the other paths. And that's a big ask, because sometimes when we're at the front of a new path, to break away from the old path, we probably were the recipient of a bit of judgment from some people, because now I'm going to flip to the other side. So the people at home trotting the ancient path, in one hand there's there's a martini glass, whatever. And the other hand also still needs to be firmly on their heart. Or maybe in one hand there's a book, and whatever that book is. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to try to avoid it. So in one hand, there's the Bible. But in the other hand, it's still on our heart. And that heart is, okay, love. I love everyone. I love everyone. I may not be called to their path. Maybe I know I'm not called to their path. I may not understand their path. I may even find their path frightening, or it might feel wrong to me even. But can I put a hand on my heart, and can I find love for my fellow human being? I don't have to understand them, but can I find love for them? And can I respect that they are following their path? It's not my job to walk their path. It's not my job to shape their path for them. It is only ever our job as humans to love each other. So, I guess I'm out and saying that, so I may as well. So the person with the Bible firmly in one hand, which is exactly what they are meant to be doing on their path. It's who they are. And if they have a Bible in one hand and the other hand over their heart where love resides, and they feel and can afford that love to everybody else on other paths. And just as the person who is on their path, which is not, their path is appearing behind them. It's so new and so untrodden. They're making the way. Maybe it's a Pulaski, boom, digging dirt and cutting roots. But the person on that other path, also a hand on the heart. So the thing that joins us as human beings is not what we hold in the one hand that represents our individual path, whatever it is. But it's what we do. So whatever we're holding, I guess, is in our left hand. But it's what we're doing with our right hand. It's over our heart. And that's where we are joined as humans, is we all put our right hand over our heart and we feel into love and we acknowledge love for our fellow humans. We're only acknowledging love. We're not acknowledging understanding. We might not get it. We're not acknowledging that we feel comfortable with it. We're also not acknowledging that we don't feel threatened by it. We might feel threatened by it. But underneath all of that can we find love? Can we get to love? And when we do that, this is the exciting part. When we get to love, we release all those other things that are holding us back. We have more energy. We have more power. We become more effective walkers of our own path. When we have released judgment and fear and resentment, when we have released all of that, we have dropped a burden. And when we drop that burden, wow, we are walking our path, the path that we were meant to walk, that we were born to walk, the path that we couldn't not walk because it is so deep within us. We walk that path with greater strength, with greater ease, with greater conviction when we allow other people to walk theirs. Because no one of us walks the same path. And we really need to get that. Many of us are walking similar paths or following others down a path, but simply by virtue of being ourselves in our own body, the path is different. Even if we're following another person down what seems to be the same path, it's different because they've walked before us, and therefore the path has changed. So we may be on what seems to be a very clear, very well-defined, very well-trodden path, but because we are walking it, our individual experience on that path is very different. It's very different. Now, so we've all got one hand on our heart, the other hand on whatever it is that we're holding, that we're walking, and we're all walking our own path, and we're all, yes, I'm going to be in love in my heart and holding love for everyone on their individual paths. And so I am at the front of the parade and I feel love for the person at home, on the couch. And I am on the couch and I feel love for the person at the front of the parade. Now, this is all well and good, like really well and good. Let me rephrase that. This is well and good. This is the goal. Now, having gotten to where we are on our path, whether we're at the very front of the path that we are forging, that's still our path, or whether we are following many people down a very well-defined path, having gotten there, sometimes our fellow humans have either inadvertently or quite intentionally caused us some hurt, some pain, some harm. And it's really easy when our fellow humans who have caused us some hurt or pain or harm are on a vastly different path. It's very easy to translate that hurt or harm to everybody else who's walking that same path or a similar path. And nobody is well served by that. But we were hurt, we were harmed, and we were harmed by somebody over there who looks like that, or somebody over there who acts like that, or somebody over there who believes that, or who does that, whatever that. And this is where forgiveness comes in. And a little bit of acceptance. Can we accept that when we walk our path, we will experience harm? It's part of the human existence. We will experience pain. We will experience harm. And it will be at the hands of another. It will be, whether directly or indirectly, we will experience it from our fellow humans. And sometimes that harm may seem small, and sometimes it may seem great. And we don't judge whether it was really seemingly insignificant or seemingly unsurvivable. We don't judge it. It's harm. We've experienced harm or hurt. And so with that hand on our heart, we seek to accept that experiencing harm is part of being human. We were born, we're going to experience harm. Do we like it? No. Does it hurt? Yes. Do we need to seek healing? Absolutely. We seek it in whatever form works for us. Some people seek that healing through the nurturing love of other people. Some people seek that healing through a belief system that feels secure. Some people seek, maybe it's more direct forms of healing, like I got to go to the ER and get stitched up, or I've got to go to a therapist and work through this issue, and many combinations of things. But we need to recognize our own woundings or hurts. We need to recognize them, and then we need to seek healing in whatever way we need, and however many ways we need. We might just simply need a Band-Aid and, we're good to go. Or we might need months in the hospital and then years in therapy and then a lot of just personal growth work and spiritual experiences before we are fully healed. And that's okay. It doesn't matter whether we need a Band-Aid or the whole shebang. It doesn't matter. We seek our own healing. And at some point in the course of seeking our own healing, we forgive. We forgive the person or the group or the entire pathway. But we forgive them because unless and until we forgive, we ourselves are held back. And so we don't forgive them for their sake. We forgive them for our sake. I mean, it's nice that we forgive them for their sake because then we also have freed them up to be effective on their path. And even though we do not agree with their path or necessarily like their path or respect their path, well, no, we do need to respect it, but we don't agree with it or we don't like it, or sometimes we think they're dead wrong. It is their path and they are supposed to walk it. And so can we forgive them and move on and continue down our own path? And it's okay to take a little bit of caution. Like, it's okay to recognize, okay, I was deeply wounded by someone walking this particular path. Perhaps I'll be a little careful around somebody walking that particular path. And that's okay. We're human. It's all right. We're human. We're walking through the woods. If we get bit by a snake, we realize, okay, if I see something, slithering on the ground, perhaps I'll take a step back and see if this one's going to bite, to see if this one's poisonous. So the same way, when we encounter someone from a path that has harmed us in the path, we can take a step back and we can maybe not engage with them or engage with them from a safe distance. Or if we feel called that it's our path to engage with them, fully. But let's remember to be guided by love and to be guided by understanding that we are all walking our own paths. This can apply to differences of beliefs, different religions, different politics, different lifestyles. Love covers everything. And this way of operating in love, of not judging other people and checking in with ourselves to see, are we fully operating in love ourselves? Is there an area where we're judging? Is there an area where we have a little fear? Could we bring a little understanding in? Do we need to do a little more healing in an area where we were wounded? If so, let's go do that. Let's get whatever help we need, or do whatever reflection we need, do whatever forgiving we need. Let's get that healing so that we move forward on our own path, because that's where we are all meant to be. Each of us are meant to be on our own path, moving forward in love. So that was kind of a generalized love, like how we as humans operate within our own individuality and our own experience and our own identity with people who perhaps are in different experiences or having a different identity. But then there's also the love between two people, the love we have for our beloved. And the same principles apply, that even though our beloved may appear to trod the same path, it is somewhat different for them because it's their individual path. And the same thing, let's not judge our beloved, even if we think they're doing something really wrong. Let's seek to understand them, and let's seek to find acceptance, and let's seek to love them where they are. And if they need healing, our beloved, maybe we can ask them, it looks like you need maybe a little healing in this area, or like you're struggling in this area. Can I help? Can I help you? And it's this reaching out to our beloved without judgment and offering help, offering healing. And this is where so many relationships, whether they be, our primary love, romantic love relationship, or a relationship between family members or friends, goes wrong, is that we get caught up in judgment. So let's use an example of, so let's say our beloved is having a bad day and they say something unkind to us. We, instead of recognizing that their bad day probably stems from circumstances, or maybe they got triggered by an old wounding, whatever, but they just kind of exploded on us. It wasn't necessarily about us, but then we kind of pick up the torch. It's like, oh, you want to explode on me? You want to go there? Oh, I'll show you explode. You think you exploded? Let me show you. Let me define explosion for you. We all, we've been guilty of that ourselves. And then our beloved has the choice. They can either be laid flat or pick up the torch themselves and go, oh, you think that was explosion? Oh, well, I got some dynamite over here for you. And boom, boom, boom. And oh, yeah. And we've all been there. What started out as something really little escalates into something very extreme. And if we can catch ourselves, it's really hard to catch ourselves once it's escalated, almost impossible. But if we can catch ourselves at the first volley, the first lob, that first, harsh word, and say, oh, wow, I think oh, wow, maybe you're hurting, or maybe you're upset, or oh. And if we can respond in love and in kindness and offer healing, or maybe our beloved can't accept healing, so, because sometimes this happens, then we have to walk away. But we walk away in forgiveness and in love. And we walk away and say, okay, clearly we can't do this right now, so I'm gonna go over here. Want you to know, still love you, still here for you, but just not right here and now here for you. Here for you in the figurative sense, not the literal sense. I'm gonna go over here and be figuratively here for you over there. And so when we do this, we sidestep a whole bunch of lobbying back and forth, of explosion and escalation, that boom, boom, back and forth. And each time it goes back and forth, it gets higher and higher, more intense and more intense, until sometimes it intensifies into violence. And that can be verbal violence, a violence of anger and intensity and verbal violence. It can be physical violence. And the way to not do that, we all got that, is to be the one who, when the first salvo is unleashed, be the one to sidestep it, and instead of taking the hit head on and responding in like kind, saying, oh, wow, ouch, yeah, something's going on here for you. Well, I'm not going to play this game. I'm not going to fire one back. I'm going to step into understanding. And oftentimes that diffuses it. And the other person goes, oh, wait, you're understanding? You're holding me in understanding? Well, let me tell you about my bad day. It was really awful and blah, 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 blah. And we can sit and hold that in understanding and really hold it while they blah, 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 blah. And then they look at us and they go, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. And then we're with the same person, our beloved, but it's escalating in goodness and love, and it's escalating into fabulous love and going back and forth instead of escalating into anger. Now, the same is true. So that's kind of the microcosm of individuals. The same is true for us on our path in kind of a macro sense of if we are at the head of forging a new path, we see ourselves as representative of a certain belief system or type of person or way of being or whatever. And we encounter somebody in what we would consider the other camp, and they are firing off a salvo. Sometimes they don't know they're firing off a salvo, or sometimes they do, but whatever. But we can choose how we respond to that. We can say, oh yeah, that's your salvo? Ho ho, I'm a path forger. Your salvos are nowhere near the level of salvo I've got, so let me just show you mine. Or we can say, oh, you're surfing ping pong balls. Let me catch that and kind of have a conversation with you. Let me listen to you. Tell me why you're lobbing that salvo. Tell me, I want to understand where you're coming from. I want to understand why you feel this way. And when we step into understanding, and by the way, it works from both sides, because that salvo could be the person at the front of the parade, and maybe the person at home decides to get up off the couch and go to the parade. I think of myself. I look very like the person at home on the couch. I'm an older woman, and I can show up at the parade, and I have done this not at a parade, but in a smaller setting, where I have said, "Will you explain this to me? Because I don't understand, and I would like to understand." And fortunately, I chose a very gracious person at the front of the parade who said, yeah. And they sat down and they explained it to me. And it was great. And this is what we as human beings do for each other when we're operating in love and we're on different camps. And maybe somebody in one camp lobbed a salvo, and maybe they didn't mean it to be a salvo. Maybe it was just their response to, there's a parade marching by and I don't understand it. I'm going to close my windows, And so if we're always seeking this understanding, even if the person appears to be a little threatening, we can step into our strength, because there's a lot of strength in love. We can step into our strength in love and say, hey, I do not understand what's going on here, or I don't understand you, but I'd like to. I'd really like to. I'd really like to understand you. Because understanding someone does not mean we agree with them. It does not mean that we are going to leave our path and join theirs. Understanding them doesn't mean that. It just gives us a greater ability with that right hand over our heart to experience more love. So from that standpoint, we would be well served as a loving person to really seek to understand other paths, really understand them, fully understand where they're coming from, because it helps us live in harmony with them, because we are all on the same planet and we are well served to live in harmony. And while it's under the umbrella of love and we're seeking not to be judgmental, we will sometimes need understanding. Fear gets in the way of understanding. There's sometimes a fear of, oh, if I hear too much about your path, I might be infected by your path. I might join your path, or people around me might join your path. It's not about that. Our path is our path. And our path might meander. We might go walk their path for a little bit with them just to encourage them. Or we might walk their path with them to understand them. And then we might go back to our own path a little bit changed, or with a broader understanding, or not changed at all, but we go, oh yeah, I know there's a new path being opened up over there in the wilderness, and I know what that path is because I've talked to those people. And I'm over here, I'm still doing my path because that's where I'm called to be. But I'm not threatened by those people. I'm the same thing. I'm over here and I'm hacking a new path and I'm expending a lot of energy, but I'm not threatened by those people over there on the old path because I've talked to them. I've really talked to them. I've understood them. I have understood them and I see value. And so that's it. That's all we do. So if something looks scary to us, or if someone's being really aggressive or angry, if we seek to understand, understanding can diffuse more problems. It can diffuse hatred, and it can diffuse this lack of harmony. It can diffuse all of this. And then we can all dwell in love and have this wonderful umbrella of love, and everybody's walking their own paths, whatever that be. Different religion, different politics, different lifestyles, different ways of being, completely opposing viewpoints. I'll tell one final story. I did have a friend one time. We were different political parties. It was a particularly hotly contested election. And this friend could not let it go and kept, every time I saw her, we went to the same gym every morning. She was just pounding it. Finally, one morning, I would listen. And finally, one morning, I said, I really, really have listened. And I really, really still think what I think. And if you would like the friendship to continue, you're going to need to let go of trying to convince me and trying to change me. And it worked. And I didn't have to get angry or frustrated. I listened. I didn't feel any need to convince my friend because I'm real clear about where I am. And when she was able to realize, oh, I had really heard her and I still thought what I thought, and she recognized that she was about to lose a friendship, she was able to take a step back and value the friendship and realize that it was okay for me to walk my path and her to walk hers, and we could still be really wonderful friends. And so this is what we do, because we can be, and we can and should be wonderful friends, deeply connected with people on completely opposing, seemingly opposing. The paths aren't opposing, they just seem that way. Seemingly opposing paths. And that's really, really when we are fully walking our path and fully in love, is when we have connections and friendships with people on other paths. And we are fully, without being hampered by past woundings or our sense of judgment or any hatred or lack of harmony with people on other paths. We're just all walking our own paths, each of us, but all together and linked by love. Boom. I can't imagine what would happen in the world if we all did that. It would be amazing. respecting each other's paths and walking our own and feeling love, one hand on our heart, feeling love for everybody.